Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the mechanics, pressures, and X-ray characteristics of major CSF, or cerebrospinal fluid flow-controlled valves. We aren't skipping a single detail here. Whether you're physically adjusting a shunt or trying to interpret a tricky scan, we're going to break down these mechanical nuances together so you have a crystal clear concept of exactly how they work.
We've got a packed agenda, so let's run through it. We'll start with standard flow valves, move into the Strata series, then tackle Codman and Certus, followed by Polaris and ProGav, and finally we'll wrap things up with the Hare-Schulte system.
All right, let's jump into Section 1, Standard Flow Controlled Valves. Let's kick things off with the PS medical valve, a single one-way membrane design from Medtronic. The physical interaction here actually requires a bit of precision. You're using two fingers to manually control the flow, and getting that hand placement exactly right is the key to making the system work.
It really all comes down to the order of operations. First, you've got to occlude the inlet port with one finger. That completely prevents any backflow into the ventricle during the next step. Then, while you're holding that pressure, you depress the reservoir dome with your second finger. The magic happens when you release both. The one-way valve regulates the shunt pressure and safely prevents any reflux of CSF.
Now, what's really cool is how quickly you can read these on an X-ray. You'll see a radio-opaque arrow headed, which always points directly in the direction of the flow. And right there, you can just count the radio-opaque dots to know exactly what pressure you're dealing with. 1 dot, low pressure. 2 dots is medium. And 3 dots means you've got a high-pressure valve on your hands. Moving right along to Section 2, Strata Programmable Valves. When you step up to externally adjustable magnet-programmed valves, you absolutely have to distinguish between the two major Medtronic models. The Strata 2 comes with vital integrated anti-siphon protections. The Strata NSC, on the other hand, literally stands for no siphon control. It relies on a purely programmable mechanism, and you'll typically find it packaged in specialized lumboperitoneal shunt kits. By hitting the valve with a programming magnet, you lock in one of 5 specific performance levels, moving from 0.5 up to 2.5 in half-step increments. But pay close attention to the pressure variations between the models here. At a maximum level of 2.5, the Strata 2 provides 140 millimeters of water of resistance. The NSC, though, it jumps all the way up to 200. Recognizing that gap is absolutely crucial for managing your patient safely. Okay, Section 3, Codman-Hackham and Certus systems. Let's get granular with pressure control. So the Codman-Hackham valve is a bit of a beast. It offers an incredible 18 different pressure settings programmed using an AC-powered unit. Now, here's the golden rule for this one. Unless you are lucky enough to be using a newer acoustic monitor, every single AC-powered adjustment mandates a confirmatory X-ray, no exceptions. Oh, and here's a pro tip for reading those scans. Settings 70, 120, and 170 perfectly align with the arms of the central cross on the valve itself. But with great power comes a major safety threshold. Because the range on this device is so vast, the manufacturer explicitly warns that you should never, ever increase the pressure by more than 40 millimeters of water within a single 24-hour window. Pushing beyond that limit can seriously compromise patient safety. When you map out the rotor, you see how those 18 pressure settings span the dial. It goes from 30 all the way up to 200, giving you incredibly fine-tuned adjustments. The radio-opaque marker shows up bright and clear on your scan, letting you pinpoint the precise millimeter of water setting. But watch out, because there is a massive pitfall here. You always have to check your orientation on the X-ray. If the beam passes correctly through the valve and then the patient, the solid circle marker appears to the right of the center. But if that marker shows up on the left side, the beam actually passed from the bottom of the valve. You are looking at a mirror image, and you literally have to reverse your reading to get the true pressure. Shifting over to the Codman Certus Plus, we've got a slightly different setup with 8 distinct positions. The pressure smoothly climbs from 25 at setting 1 all the way up to 215 at setting 7. But setting number 8 is a totally unique feature. It acts as a virtual off switch, locking in a mean pressure that exceeds 400 millimeters of water. When you're looking at the Certus Plus under X-ray, you want to train your eyes to hit 4 key anatomical landmarks. First, find that right-hand side X-ray marker for orientation. Then, spot the ruby bearing. Next, check the internal setting indicator to see which of the 8 positions is actually active. And finally, look for the optional siphon guard at the base, which is there to prevent overdrainage. Next up, Section 4, Polaris and ProGav valves. Let's talk magnetic shielding.
The Sophiza Polaris valve is pretty genius. It utilizes two attracting samarium cobalt magnets. Why does that matter? Because this dual magnet system creates a heavy-duty lock on the pressure setting. It completely resists any inadvertent reprogramming from everyday environmental magnetic hazards. We're talking MRI scanners, cell phones, even the magnets in your headphones. It stays firmly locked in.
Identifying which of the 4 Polaris models is implanted is as easy as counting the radio-opaque dots on the scan. 0 dots, that's the SPV-140. 1 dot means it's the A or B model. 2 dots is the SPV-300, and 3 dots means you're looking at the heavy-duty SPV-400, which can handle up to 400 millimeters of water. Once you identify the model, you know exactly what pressure range its 5 positions cover.
With the ProGav valve, the physical shape actually does a lot of the heavy lifting for your assessment. The flat side serves as your primary orientation guide on imaging. The internal numbers map out the opening pressures from 0 to 200, but there's a huge catch. Notice the distinctly marked unused range between 0 and 200. You have to be absolutely certain the valve is never ever set within this dead zone. And that brings us to our final stop, Section 5, the Higher-Schult injectable valve.
Distributed by Integra Neurosciences, the LPV2 model represents the classic Higher-Schulte design. What makes the LPV2 such a standout in the world of standard mechanics is its incredible versatility. Depending on how you manipulate the external ports, it can actually be injected in either direction. Because this specific valve is designed to be physically accessed with a needle, whether you're pushing fluids or doing a draw, it has an internal needle guard housed right beneath the reservoir dome. This rigid shield is a lifesaver, protecting the delicate one-way valve mechanism underneath from getting accidentally punctured during injections. Operating this thing dynamically is really intuitive. If you just want to pump the shunt forward, you occlude the inlet port with one finger and press the reservoir. But if you need to inject medication or fluid, you just physically depress the corresponding occluder, either the inlet or the outlet, while you inject straight into the reservoir. This lets you manually direct your injection exactly where it needs to go, whether that's up toward the ventricles or down to the peritoneum.
So what's the big takeaway here? With such diverse magnetic protections, highly granular pressure ranges, and unique pumping mechanics, the clinical picture is complex. You've got the acoustic feedback of the Codman-Hockham, the samarium cobalt locks of the Polaris, the bidirectional flexibility of the Higher-Schulte. Now that we've broken down these blueprints and X-ray quirks without skipping a beat, which CSF valve profile ultimately fits the exact needs of your next patient? Keeping these mechanics top of mind is going to make navigating your next case a whole lot smoother.